It's the go-to podcast with your host Aidan and Matt. Today we have a very, very special guest. He
Ah,
is
jeez.
a four-on-four, how you say, expert. I mean, the guy
Hmm.
can get to his spots, and that's part of the reason we have him on today for this basketball podcast. This episode is going to be talking about a lot of trade deadline stuff, a lot of players that we like so far in this season, and even teams that we like. So we're going to get into all of that. But without further ado, Mr. DJ Delabady himself is joining us, and we're obviously very happy to have him. He has a great background within basketball, and it's going to be a great episode. So, DJ, welcome.
Jeez, guys, honored to be here. Seriously, a lot of exciting stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Got some notes. I'm really excited to touch on a couple trades, a couple different things around the league that are exciting. So let's get into it.
Matt, if you want to start first with the trade that was your favorite, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so my favorite trade, while it wasn't even that major, was the Thunder picking up Jared McCain.
Okay.
Just
Mm.
feels like a Thunder team that, strongest team in the league. They've hit a few road bumps this season, but you pick up a guy who was the Rookie of the Year favorite last year before getting hurt. He hasn't started the year off great, but as of lately, has started to come back to that sort of player. And it just feels like on a team where they don't really need to add much. You're adding a guy who could shoot the ball well and just is a young guy who's going to be cost controlled for them and probably help them get back-to-back championships here.
Yeah, absolutely. DJ is a Thunder fan, so
Oh God,
obviously I'm
love
sure
it.
you have plenty of thoughts on that.
I do. I love it. I absolutely love the McCain pickup. Prior to him joining the Thunder, I was a McCain fan. Um, I remember watching his clips back when he was in high school at, I forget the school in California, but
Yep.
he was like somewhat famous from TikTok. And so I've been somewhat following him since high school. Great little ball player, right? And I forget exactly what Presti gave up to get him, Sam Presti, manager of the
Hmm.
Thunder or GM. But it was like Sam Presti gave up a first round pick for the first time in like 6 years
Yep.
to get Jaren McCain. So if he's given up that first time in 6 years, giving up a first round pick to get McCain, you got to figure he's seeing something that he likes and he thinks he's going to fit into the system and actually contribute if he's given up a first round pick.
Yep.
So it's tough seeing him come from the Sixers where, yeah, it was like 16 points a game, rookie of the year favorite. And then they get Edgecombe, Maxi's averaging 30 points a game, and Embiid's back, Paul George. Like McCain's role just completely fell off
Yep.
on the Sixers. So, and you see that with guys throughout the league, like Halliburton, his start in the Kings didn't do much,
Right.
got a fresh start in the Pacers,
Yeah.
and balled. SGA with the Clippers, he was good, like he showed signs, but he wasn't going to be the guy there. And then he went to the Thunder. Obviously, look at him now. And I mean, you see it all the time. Brunson starting out with the Mavs, like he was fine, right? But then he goes to the Knicks, gets his own role, and all those guys kind of took over, right, and are the guy on the team. And McCann's not going to do that,
Yep.
but hopefully he contributes in the Thunder, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
For sure. For sure. I think to the Presti note, um, super impressed with obviously he has a abundance of assets, but the fact that he is so patient, like you can easily the Jazz, for example, gave three or four first round picks up for Triple J, which obviously is a cool move and good for them getting an upgrade. But he has he's more than capable of trading away multiple first round picks and trying to take a big swing. But he hasn't really needed to, one, because he's eyed talent, and I think him trading for a player like you said is in and of itself interesting because he doesn't go out and do it very often. But when he does go and trade for a player like he did with SGA, or goes and drafts a player like Jalen Williams, who is now a second like Robin to SGA as the Batman, he knows he can find talent. Not just him, obviously, it's the whole front office, but he has a way of finding talent, making sure that it gets in house, and Honestly, I mean, it's not necessarily a buy low because you're trading a first round pick for a previous first round pick, but it's not as if he's giving up that much. And I think his return on that pick, trading it in for McCain, he can definitely see more value coming in than the value that he is giving out. Um, so obviously he's known for not really losing trades or at least trying to make sure that it's a win for him. And if it's a win for the other team, that's great. But he always makes sure like he's not taking a risk. He's never necessarily taking a huge swing. Even when they did bring in SGA, it was kind of like and people knew that SGA had the potential to be not necessarily become one of the best players in the league in the MVP, but people knew they were getting a good young player who can kind of find his own, like you had said. And he's done that to an extreme level. So yeah, I mean, McCain to the Thunder, great trade. I think the Sixers kind of had to move on from McCain. Obviously, they had an overabundance, but I am curious from a Thunder perspective, adding McCain to a roster that already has plenty of guards within their rotation, where does he kind of fit in?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I don't know because they have so many guards. One of the players I have in my notes I want to talk about when we get there is Ajay Mitchell,
Yep.
like just such a good contributor off the bench. And McCain, I don't think he's an elite defender by any means, like pretty much all of the guards on the Thunder are.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't necessarily know what his role is going to be, how he's going to fit in, how exactly he's going to contribute. But you got to have faith in Presti. I mean, he's done no wrong
Yep.
since he's been GM over the past, I mean, since the Paul George trade.
Hmm.
He's literally done no wrong. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, minimal risk. I think it's always good to bring in extra talent. And obviously, if they're trading for him, they're gonna know, they know that they're gonna have a role for him somewhere.
Yeah, true.
But they have Dort at the two, starting two. They have Casey Wallace, AJ Mitchell. They have quite a few guys who are all guards. So, and McCain's obviously a little bit undersized himself,
Yeah,
where he can't really play a wing. He's got to be a two.
yeah, it's true.
Doesn't transition well to the three, but I think bring him in for obviously not much going out. It's a good trade. And I think the
Yeah,
Thunder did well there, especially because they did bring in talent as opposed to their other top competitors in the West anyway. The Nuggets, the Spurs, the Rockets, they kind of made all their moves in the offseason and stood pat at the deadline. So the Thunder being able to add at least something, I think is good for the Thunder because they were already at the top and maybe they separated themselves a little bit, maybe not with the McCain trade, but it is possible for them to have gotten better while all the other teams literally did nothing. So I think that's also very important for the Thunder to note because the Nuggets, Rockets, and Spurs, I would say those are the most formidable. Also, the Wolves. The Wolves made a move, which was nice, but some of the top teams didn't do anything. So
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then as for your favorite trade, obviously McCain was mentioned. Do you have the same one or do you have a different one?
I have a different one.
Okay,
My favorite trade. Now, I wasn't familiar with exactly what the Jazz gave up to get Jaren Jackson, but I tell
sure.
you what, I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, the Jazz are exciting. I've been high on them since the start of the season. No, they've won like what, 20 games maybe at this point.
Less than. Yep.
Less. Okay, yeah. So listen, they're not going to do anything this year, right? But they're fun. You've got Keontae George, who's going to be he's an all-star, right? Was he named an all-star?
I believe I'm not entirely sure, but I think
Okay.
obviously he's playing well.
Yeah, if not damn near, he's putting up all-star numbers. He was one of my three players I'm impressed with. He's putting up 24, 4, and 6 on 46, 37, 89 splits. So he's putting
Yeah.
up really good numbers, all-star level numbers, efficient too. They've got Ace Bailey, who was a stud in college, obviously at Rutgers, high draft pick. Hopefully he can pan out and start really contributing. He's not doing much. I think he's averaging 10 points a game right now, but he's a rookie. And
Yep.
then you've obviously got Markkinen, who's elite. You've
Yeah.
got Isaiah Collier, who the other night dropped like 22 assists.
Yeah.
Really like him.
Yep.
You've got Walker Kessler, who's a really good defensive big. And now you got Jaren Jackson Jr., who was depoy like 2 or 3 years ago. Um, so they're fun. They're exciting, man. I think that a solid 1, 2, 3 year turnaround could be very legit for the Jazz. I don't really know what they have to offer off the bench and how well-rounded they actually are.
Sensible is a good player. I like him.
Okay, yep,
Um, they gave up Walter Clayton, who they just picked in the first
sure,
round, but
yep,
he is older because he was a 4-year college guy. And frankly, a little surprised that he went in the first round just because you don't see it that often, but I think he was
yep,
talented enough to do it.
hmm
Um, they've got Cody Williams still, who they
yeah,
drafted a few years ago pretty high, and he hasn't
hmm
really panned out yet. But I think at some point you take those young players as they sort of did with Jackson, and they brought in a few vets as well. I think Conchar was in that trade, going from the Grizzlies to the Jazz. So they brought in a few more vets, but I think even the young guys that you still have on the bench, you can package those guys to get maybe one vet who's going to be a bigger contributor. So you package Cody Williams and maybe one or two other guys for a veteran that you think will be more capable of producing. I think, yeah, Jaren, obviously will help that team. They've shown signs of being competitive, which is important before obviously going out and making a trade like that. So I frankly don't mind it at all. Um, Giving up a decent amount of picks is obviously something, but I think you should be willing to do it. Like, there's no reason not to,
yeah,
especially because I think they still have a decent amount of picks left. So to hoard your assets really, to me, doesn't make much sense. And um, to that point, the Grizzlies got obviously a good amount of draft capital from the Jaren Jackson trade, but for them to not trade away Ja is a little confusing. I didn't really understand that. Matt, do you have any thoughts on Jaren being traded or shipped out and John Morant staying in Memphis?
Yeah, I feel like for the Jazz, they are 16 and 36. So
sure.
you're looking at this for with a future lens,
Yep.
what you could build around him next year and the years to follow. But yeah, as far as the Grizzlies, if you're going to trade Jaren Jackson Jr., why you keep John Morant, I'm not too sure. You may as well just blow it all up at that point
Right.
and
And
just
Ja
let
was
it
the
rest.
first guy too. They were like, "Oh, we've got to get Ja out of here." And Jaren, there was no really trade talk about Jaren. It was
Yeah, that's
always,
true.
"What's going on with Ja? How are we going to get him out?" They reported that the market for Ja wasn't great, and I think there's obviously a reason to that. But
Yeah.
even if it's not great, like, just you can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. If you're going to trade away Jaren, even if you're not getting the return that you want for Ja, you should send him out with Jaren and kind of completely rebuild instead of being, oh, we're still in this Ja Morant era and we're also trying to move on from Ja at the same time. Doesn't make much sense to me. I know Ja has said that he wants to be in Memphis and maybe he's able to kind of not only rebuild his trade value, but just become the potential franchise player that he once looked like he could become. Because they got the picks that I think they would have wanted to have for Ja. They got him from Jaren Jackson. So there is an argument to be made. Like, now you have what you wanted from Ja. So maybe see how Ja continues to play out. I get that perspective, but also I think like it's already been such a mess that you should have just continued to clean house, even if the value you wanted from Ja wasn't exactly there. You got that tenfold from Triple J. So at that point, I think it would have been easier to move Ja, but they didn't. And I think obviously for Jaren, the Jazz want to remain non-competitive this year and then want to compete next year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him sit out a bunch of games, similar to how a lot of Jazz players have done throughout the past month. In the first, I think through December, they were super competitive. They beat the Lakers a few times, and then January came and everyone either had an illness or some little bug. So it looks like this is going to be their last year trying to bring on draft capital. And whoever they get with the top 10 pick is going to be a very good player because this draft is loaded. And then after that, they can kind of move forward and they have the core that they want. They add Triple J to that next year with whoever it is that they draft. So I think they'll be competitive next year. But yeah, Jaren, I don't think is going to play much for Utah this year, just so that it limits their ceiling of how many wins they do get. And the Wizards did the same thing with AD and Trae Young, obviously. So I think that was cool because Utah and Washington, not necessarily free agent destinations, but being able to get guys who are on the market who you can not necessarily buy low on, but guys you wouldn't have a chance getting in free agency. You took them before they get to free agency, and now you retain the rights to them, which is super cool, especially for markets that aren't necessarily the top free agency destinations on a year-to-year basis.
Yes, sir. Yeah, all great points.
I appreciate that. I try, you know.
For sure.
My favorite trade, not necessarily one trade, but I am very impressed with how the Clippers pivoted off of James Harden, who kind of forced the Clippers' hand by requesting a trade. This is nothing new with James. As a Thunder fan, you would know that from the very beginning. But every destination that he's been, he requests a trade at some point. I understand the logic behind it. He has a player option. The Clippers aren't committing to him any further than that 2027 free agency when Giannis, Nikola, whoever else is supposed to be available. Everyone kind of is clearing their cap for that free agency to come. So they didn't want to give Harden anything past that. So he's going to Cleveland where I guess they're gonna say that they are gonna extend him. We'll see. But regardless, Los Angeles's hand was forced. They got Garland coming back, who's a great playmaker. They also brought in Benedict Mathurin by trading away Zubac, who I think Garland and Mathurin alone will allow them to be competitive this year and continue to be competitive, where they should make a play-in pretty much no problem. The 11 through 15 in the West are not going to make the playoffs. So for them to be in the top 10 right now, they should be fine the rest of the year. But I think obviously they have injury concerns, but I think the potential of Garland and Mathurin and whoever else it is that you get from obviously the Zubac trade, which was very interesting. They got two Pacers first. Obviously Halliburton is back next year. Zubac is gonna increase their floor. He's not Miles Turner, but he plays the same level of defense and can rebound the ball well. We'll see how he plays in that system. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan because I don't really think he runs in transition like the rest of that team tries to do. But with all that being said, the first for this year, if it is 5 through 9, which the Pacers are at the bottom of the East and in the NBA as a whole, if that pick lands 5 through 9, they get it for this year. So the Clippers can add another blue chip prospect to what it is that they already have of Garland and Mathurin and kind of continue to build a future while trying to maintain competitiveness with Kawhi. So I think they did a good job despite Harden requesting the trade. And at that point, they really don't have any leverage, but they made out of it, I think, pretty well.
Sure. Yeah, and so, pivoting off of that as well, my least favorite trade was this trade, but on the Cavs end.
Okay.
I don't love it from the Cavs, right? This is a team you once, and I was talking about this with Matt before you hopped on, Lav. They won 64 games last year.
Yep.
And yeah, sure, they might have overperformed a little bit, but there's 82 games in the season, right? You won 64 games.
Yeah.
Darius Garland last year averaged 20 points, 3 boards, 6 assists on 47, 40, 88 splits.
Hmm.
Incredibly efficient. And yeah, I get it. He has injuries. He isn't always available. But and then again, they lost they lose first round of the playoffs last year.
Yep.
First round of the playoffs, but you had injuries. Garland wasn't there. I think Mitchell might have missed a game or two. Maybe
Yep.
Allen or Mobley, one of their big men, was hurt.
Hmm.
It just seems to me they moved on really quickly, and I get it. You want to win now, but listen, James Harden, he's 36,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay, he's averaging 25 points a game on the Clippers, where he's getting the ball and whatever he wants anytime down the court.
Yep.
But now you're joining Donovan Mitchell, who has been the guy on the Cavs. And listen, you figure they know what they're doing, right? But you see stuff like this happen all the time where it blows up and it doesn't work,
Hmm.
especially with Harden.
Yeah.
And yes, I love James Harden, right? I mean, I'm getting home from the bars in college. I'm putting on James Harden highlights.
Sure.
I absolutely love Harden as a player, but now at this point, with his history, jumping teams in recent years, he's not a good defender, obviously. I just don't know how well he's meshing with Mitchell, this Cavs offense. And then even so, okay, yeah, they're fourth in the East right now. Maybe they have a good season. They do. Maybe they get second, maybe third round in the playoffs. That would be phenomenal for them.
Yep.
And then what? Then James Harden's 37 next year, and you just gave up a young, very promising Darius Garland, who again you won 64 games with.
Yeah.
I just, I don't get it
Yeah.
personally from the Cavs' perspective. It just feels preemptive, and I don't love it. I think they should have stuck with their squad, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Rich Paul, I saw a video of him. He was saying that the Cavs felt their ceiling was reached with Garland as the point guard. And he
64
also
games
said,
to ceiling, pretty solid,
yeah,
right?
right. And I think they were just talking about like his the fact that he wasn't available in the playoffs, which I guess is fair. But to that point, I honestly would bet on Garland to be good with the Clippers because he came out in the I think first interview he did with the Clippers, and he said that he knew that the trade was coming. So to me, I think he was probably holding back a little bit because Rich Paul said it in the offseason when he was interviewed by Max Kellerman. He said that this would be Darius Garland's last year with the Cavs. So everyone, it seemed like, including Darius, knew that this was kind of the last run of this core together. And to me, if I was a player and saw that ownership and a franchise didn't value what I was bringing to the table, I don't know if I'd give it 100% every game. So now you
Yeah.
get to reset in Los Angeles and get back to the Darius Garland that you were last year, where you have been an all-star and you won 64 games. Obviously, it's not the same team, but you still have Kawhi. Kawhi's a great player. I don't know if he's as explosive as Donovan Mitchell, but there's many different facets to his game that he provides that maybe Mitchell doesn't. So, again, I think the Clippers maintained a floor of being in the play-in at least, despite giving away their offensive engine pretty much in Harden, which is not easy to do when the guy requests a trade and again, like I said, forces your hand. So you said that bringing Harden to the Cavs is your least favorite. Matt, do you have a least favorite trade of the deadline?
Yeah, me personally, my least favorite was the Wizards going out and getting Anthony Davis. I felt like getting Trey Young was a good move, building for next year. You
Yep.
feel like your pieces you have, but bringing in Anthony Davis just felt like maybe forcing something that you didn't necessarily need. It just feels like a guy who's always getting hurt. I mean, the injury list just goes on and on. And, you have some of those young pieces. If you like what you have in Trey Young, I don't know, I just would have tried to go a different route if I'm
Yeah.
Washington
Yep.
to compete in a very like they could make noise in the East.
Yeah,
Like
East is wide open for sure.
I don't know that I would have gone the Anthony Davis route is pairing with Trey Young. I probably would have tried to do anything else. Try and
Yeah.
get a guy who's usually on the floor.
Yep.
I mean,
Sure.
he didn't play
That's
very
fair.
many games with Dallas. He's just a guy who's always hurt. Anytime I've watched
Yep.
him
Yeah.
play, he gets poked in the eye. It just something happens if I watch
Yeah.
him play.
Yeah.
He
Um,
does. He always has an injury. Yep.
I think I saw it's nearly 60 or above 60% of Washington's cap space is now with Trey Young and Anthony Davis. So you only have 40%, which they have a lot of young players on rookie scale deals, but 60% of your contract or your cap space going to two players who aren't always available is a little puzzling. So I like that as a interesting move. Obviously, Sarr and Davis on the defensive end would be a great fit in, I guess, in theory,
yeah,
but for it to actually play out, we'll see because obviously Davis unfortunately has those injury concerns and it is funny like once he starts to get on a roll, everyone's like, "Oh my God, Anthony Davis is back," and then he'll get injured within the next 5 games, and he kind of has to start back up at square one. So I get that for sure. My least favorite one, uh, the Kings are one of the they're just not very good. And for them to acquire DeAndre Hunter, giving up Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder, they got no picks from it for a team that should be rebuilding and trying to get assets for the future. You bring on a guy who's in his mid 20s, and is he really raising the ceiling of your team that much? I personally don't think so. He's a good player. You probably got the best player out of the three players in that trade. But as a team that obviously is not ready to compete, why are you going for the best player within a trade? You should be getting the younger player or a asset for the future, whether that be a draft pick or some salary, a salary dump that clears your cap space up because their contracts are brutal. But obviously they got off of Schroeder, who was a bad contract, 3 years, unnecessary, and he wasn't playing to the contract that he was given. Keon Ellis, I think a lot of teams wanted him, and Sacramento never really valued him. They didn't get any picks for it, and instead they got a guy who, like I said, is in his mid 20s, doesn't really raise the ceiling or the floor. I mean, I guess he raises the floor a little bit, but the ceiling not much higher in Sacramento because of DeAndre Hunter. And it's another guy that you have to put on your cap sheet next year because he has 25 million owed next year. And it's not like this is an expiring deal. You're paying him next year as you are with a bunch of other players. I have more on the Kings, which I'll get into in a bit, but for them acquiring DeAndre Hunter doesn't make much sense. Trade Keon Ellis. Obviously, I get that you attach Schroeder to it and you were able to get off his contract. Cool. But get picks instead of the player because the player is not helping your team right now.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Kings, they're going to be in basketball purgatory. They're just, I'm with you on that one, Lav. I don't like it. And I want to briefly touch on the Wizards trade as well.
Sure.
Because it's fair, right? Anthony Davis never plays. He's never healthy. Totally fair criticism. But in a world where he is healthy and he does play, I kind of like it for the Wizards. Like Trey Young, multi-year assist leader in the NBA. He's a bucket as well. He
Yep.
can't be the best player on a championship team. He just can't. As an undersized guard, we were talking the other day. I think he's like 160 pounds. He's maybe 6 feet tall. Like I don't know what
Yep.
he's listed as, but whatever it is, it's generous.
Yep.
So pairing him up, but he is an elite point guard and an elite passer. Pairing it up with a healthy Anthony Davis, if Alex Sarr continues to develop, he's really made a jump this year. I think they might be able to win some games.
Yeah.
Now, again, that's contingent on Anthony Davis being healthy,
It's a
which,
big question mark.
yeah, has he ever been healthy for an entire season in his career? Not in the last 5 or 6 years, at least. So we'll see, but I think their ceiling is relatively high.
yeah,
But we'll
best
see.
case scenario, they definitely can be a top five team in the East, but
Yeah,
you just need so many things to go right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. I
I
mean, at
I
this
also
point,
think they have Keyshawn George, who they've obviously been comfortable with playing power forward. So worst comes to worst, Davis isn't available. You already have a guy that you'd be willing to put at the four. I think they'd probably want to move him to the three, because I think he's better suited there. He's not as big as Davis, obviously. I just like that the Wizards they feel, same with the Jazz, they feel like they have a core intact and they're trying to add to it. Davis may or may not contribute to that, but at least they're going for it. And I think the price that they paid wasn't much, which is also important compared to the Jaren Jackson deal, where Utah did have to give up a lot. For Davis, you didn't really have to give up anything, which
yeah.
is pretty cool given, like you said, DJ, the ceiling that he can give the Wizards, um, to not have to give up that much for that potential. I don't see why not.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, everyone forgets that when he's healthy, it's like, oh, he's damn near MVP level
Yeah.
player.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, if he does play, he is still elite, and he's only 32. Before the episode, I was looking up what his age was, and I was like, I probably thought he was mid 30s at
Right.
least.
Yeah.
He's just been in the NBA since he was 18, and
Yeah.
he's been good for 10 years. So he's not that old. I mean, he's a year older than Giannis. Like he's
Right.
still, if he's healthy, he's still got some solid years left.
That's the biggest thing. You always have to include if he's healthy.
Right. That's true. True.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Next, I think we'll hit on if anyone has any other trades, we can get those out of the way. I personally do not. Um, but I think we'll go to the disappointing team first. I want to leave all the positives for the end, but we'll go to the
Sure.
most disappointing team so far. Mine, as I had mentioned, is the Kings, who are 12 and 40 as we're recording this episode on
Mm,
February 6th. And I chose the Kings not because they are the worst team in the NBA, because unfortunately for them, they do have some high level players who won't allow them to be the worst team in the NBA, a la Zach LaVine, DeMar, Westbrook. All of these guys are trying to compete given their age, and they have no reason to not compete. Um, but I think that's what makes the Kings the most disappointing team for me is because they stick out like a sore thumb. They don't really have any young players. Like at least the Pelicans, for example, they have Fears, they have Derek Queen, they have a few young guys who obviously you can see that they're trying to rebuild around. The Kings don't have any of that. Their young guys are not very good. They have Keegan Murray, who they gave a 5 year, $140 million extension to. It's unclear if he was ever 100% this season, but in 18 games played, he has shot 42, 27, 79 in 18 games. And he's
sure.
supposed to be a 3-point shooter. And he shot
Yep.
27% from three.
Sure.
So you have that contract. You also have Zach LaVine, $50 million next year. I adjusted the Darko by one, and his projected value is 13 million. So that's being generous of a projected value of being 13 million.
Jesus. What is
Uh,
that? Can you talk more about the Darko? I went on there. I didn't really understand how they calculated things.
yeah,
So
so
what is that? How does
Darko
that work?
Darko is just a way to, I guess, value players. And when they have Darko at zero, that's giving what they think their value is. And Darko isn't always correct. Like it's not something that you can rely on by itself, but it's just another way to analyze players. It's supposed to be used as a statistic. So I used +1 for the Darko just because I think Levine is actually a pretty good player, and I think he's just given the circumstances not able to do as much as he's probably capable of, or even in the lesser role, be more efficient. Um, but yeah, so they gave whatever they think the value is based on their Darko, and obviously you have the initial contract, which for Zach LaVine is 50 million, and then you put in their or it implements the Darko for you, and it will give based off what they think that their Darko is, which for him is probably in the negative range. Then they project what the value should be. So they projected him to be $13 million or worth 15, $13 million. DeMar at least is an expiring deal, so you don't have to worry about him next year. But again, 25 million to DeMar, who is worth around $10 million, probably less than that. And then Sabonis, unfortunately, has been hurt. I think he probably had his peak years 2 or 3 years ago with the Light the Beam era, and he's making $45 million when he's projected probably less than or $20 million less than that. So you have a lot of stinky contracts, including, I think, most relevant or most pertinent is the Keegan Murray extension. It's like, I don't even think many people understood that because $140 million for a guy who, in my opinion, never really proved that he's worth building around for 5 years, $140 million. You're kind of doing that, or at least being the second guy like a J Dub for the Thunder would be. He never, I think, earned that. And why they gave it to him so early and so prematurely is puzzling to me. And on top of that, just to add another, cherry on top, the only young guys that they have that I think are promising are two bigs who play the same position as their franchise player in Domantas Sabonis. Maxine Reynaud is good. I like him. He's a good player. And Dylan Cardwell, who is a little bit older, but I think provides on the glass on both ends. Both of those guys are younger prospects who are kind of in a logjam because Sabonis, who's injured right now, is supposed to be there on a nightly basis, being that he's your franchise guy. So the Kings, to me, they have a bad record. They're kind of only looking forward to the draft. I hope for their sake that they get a top pick and they're able to develop him well. But as time has shown, you mentioned the Halliburton trade previously. They haven't done a great job of developing any of the top picks that they've had. Halliburton traded him away to Indiana. He soared. Bagley, he was a top three pick, I'm pretty sure. They didn't ever do anything with him. So Sacramento, unfortunately, not a great team and also not a great situation for them to be because they have, at least on the books, a team that looks like it should be a team that's competing, but in reality, they're 12 and 40 and one of the worst teams in the league.
Jesus, yeah. I hate everything they've got going on. I do. Besides Sabonis.
Sabonis is
Every-
good.
Everything else I hate. Even Levine, he's overpaid.
Yep.
I completely agree with that. So yeah, they're in a tough spot.
Yeah, for sure. Who
Yeah,
wants to
but
go next?
I could go next.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would say for me, my most disappointing team is the Clippers.
Okay.
Just coming in, they had the eighth best odds to win it all. Their over
Mm.
under was 49 and a half wins.
Yep.
And just they're ninth in the West right now with a 23 and 27 record. And then you just traded James Harden. Obviously, seems like he wanted out of there, but you're a team that was expected to compete to win it all and just doesn't feel like they're really too close, especially after this trade deadline. Just
Yeah.
feels like very underwhelming overall for the Clippers.
Yeah,
The past
absolutely.
couple of years too, I mean, they paired Paul George and Kawhi, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then Harden and Kawhi,
Yep.
and it just never worked.
Yeah.
They had such high expectations for the past couple of years since they've gotten Kawhi pretty much,
Hmm.
and it just has not panned out at all.
Yep.
So upsetting.
Yeah, for sure. I think the team that they've built around those guys has never been super strong. They obviously had Zubac, who's a good player, but everything else around it was kind of subpar. Like you're relying on a 37, 38-year-old Nick Batum to provide minutes on a nightly basis. That's probably not a recipe for success, although he's been good, and always has been able to shoot from the corner. You need other guys that are able to contribute. And unfortunately, when they got Paul George, they sent out a lot of their draft capital, so they were never able to really replenish what it is that they were missing. But yeah, I mean, the Clippers, it is funny that you say they had the eighth best odds because I don't think that really gets thought about much. They have been playing much better since their super slow and poor start. Now they kind of have to start all over again, and we'll see if they're able to do that. I think they added a few more pieces by subtracting their biggest piece. We'll see if that works or not. But yeah, the Clippers definitely have been disappointing this year. What do you have, DJ?
My most disappointing team, and I hate to say it, is the Lakers.
Okay.
Okay, and this is sort of a twofold thing because I do want to get into the Jimmy High Roller video we briefly talked about, Lav.
Hmm.
Um, Probably a good time to do that just because that video was about Luca. But listen, the Lakers, they're fifth in the West, right? They scrap out wins, but every time I watch them, I'm disappointed.
Hmm.
I hate DeAndre Ayton. I think he was an awful pickup. You could have gotten somebody so much better for so much less.
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton, he is a terrible defender. DeAndre Ayton, to me, when I watch him, he looks like all of the worst things about Luca put into a big man. No effort on defense. DeAndre Ayton looks like he's scared of contact on defense. He doesn't box out. He's not a great, I mean, I guess he's an okay rebounder naturally because he's a 7 footer. But
Hmm.
every time I watch him, I'm just like, this guy is just terrible.
Yeah.
The Lakers, they needed a better Jackson Hayes, and they almost got it last year with Mark Williams.
Hmm.
And they got it, I guess, in theory on paper with DeAndre Ayton. But I hate all the things he brings to the table. I don't think he generates any real offense for them, and he's a liability on defense. So when you pair that with Luca, who, as I was saying to Dobie before we started recording, I'm not a Luca fan. I'm just
Yeah.
not. I am a Luca hater, and listen, I want to appreciate his offensive greatness, but and so sort of the Jimmy Harbaugh video we were talking about, he posted a video, and if for those who don't aren't familiar with this channel, he just posts really high level NBA analysis videos. He has like 3 million subscribers, just kind of on whatever he wants to, and he dives into the stats. And so the video he posted on Luca, the title was Luca is the worst defender in the NBA. And it was a 16-minute video basically showing how Luca is actually an average defender based on
Mm,
all these different stats and metrics. And he starts off by saying that defense is notoriously hard to measure, and we don't have one great stat where, that really shows, okay, here's how you rate a defender that people rely on. Like it is hard to quantify, and one defensive metric might show that a guy is a great defender, and another might show that he's a below average defender.
yep.
But the video was just so political in the sense that he was so selective with the stats that he was showing.
Mm,
Like he was showing, okay, based on, I think, like, I don't recall the exact metrics he was showing, but it was like when Luca tries, he's
mm.
actually an average defender. And it's like, okay, well, things he didn't consider, things he didn't mention in the video. Luca's probably getting one of the worst matchups in terms of the other team's player. So
Right.
Luka's never guarding the best offensive player on the other team,
Yep.
probably not the second best offensive player on the other team.
No.
So worst case, he's getting the third best defender on the opposing team. And it's like, okay, if he's an average defender when he tries, well, how often does he try?
Right.
I don't care about how often he tries on defense because if he only tries on defense for 10% of defensive
Right.
possessions, guess what? He's the worst defender in the NBA.
Yeah.
And so I just hate watching him. He's always throwing his arms up at the ref. He's always complaining about a call. And like I want to know, okay, when Luka's on the floor, how does that impact the other Lakers defensive rating?
Sure.
Because if he's guarding somebody, and let's just say they're in man and he's sagging off, then whoever's next to him, like if he's guarding the guy on the wing,
Hmm.
whoever is on the Lakers that's guarding the guy at the top of the key or in the corner, they have to then sag off and help guard
Yeah.
Luka's defender. Or if Luka just allows a drive by, he's just, which majority of the time he is just a cone, then other Lakers defenders have to collapse and help defend, and then maybe that leads to a wide open three.
Right.
So I want to see what the Lakers defensive rating is when he's on the floor, how it impacts. I guarantee you it drops the other Lakers players' defensive ratings when he's
Yep.
out there on the floor. And he ended the video by showing like the list of players' offensive ratings, so how much offense they generate, minus how much how uh, gosh, I can't recall the exact um, details or terminology he uses, but it's effectively offense generated minus how good you are on defense.
Hmm.
And so it's Shea was at the very top, and then he ends it by showing Luka's actually slightly above him. So
Mm,
essentially, his offense is so good that it doesn't matter how bad his defense is.
mm.
But listen, he's averaging like 34 points per game. He's
Yeah.
leading the NBA in points. He's not that efficient. And
No.
there's a reason he's never actually been a real MVP candidate, right? If you're averaging the most points per game in the NBA and you're not even top three in MVP voting, you're doing something wrong,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
so, listen, yeah, he made it to the finals. That Mavs team, I think, was built perfectly around him
Yeah.
with Kyrie. And
Yep.
then their front court was good with Lively. Who else did they have?
Gafford,
Yeah.
Washington.
Yep, exactly. Like I think that team was built perfectly around Luca, but they got to the finals, wasn't really a good series. Celtics took care of them.
Yep.
And so I just listen, he's an offensive master. He is a genius on the offensive side of the ball, but all of his wrongdoings on defense, yeah, I just hate watching him, and I don't think the Lakers, as much as I want to see LeBron, you know, compete in the finals, like their ceiling is high,
Yeah.
but every time I watch them, I'm just disappointed, and I don't think they have what it takes to be a real contender. I don't think anyone's taking them seriously.
Yeah. They added Kennard, which
Yeah, I
I don't
saw
really
that.
know. I don't really know how much like that to me, obviously the Pistons did the same thing in the East where they just added a shooter and that was all they did. Are the Lakers at the level where they can just add a shooter and feel like they're ready to compete for a championship? I'm not sure. On that, Reeves just came back off the bench and had like
Yeah.
35, so I guess they'll have more offensive production. But you don't need offensive production, as you just said, because Luka should be able to provide enough offensively anyway.
As for the defensive rating, in the 8 games without Luca, their defensive rating's a 124.9. This is just games with or without him. And
Sure.
then with him, it's a 116.
Hmm.
Sure.
So noticeably worse with him.
Yep.
Interesting.
And
Huh.
then
Yep.
that doesn't take into account the game like when he's off the floor versus on the floor, but
Right.
games he's
Just with or
played
without him.
definitely better with him not on the court.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, as we know, we all play pickup competitively, men's league for hoops. Like one player lacking on defense will collapse your entire defensive plan, your entire defensive scheme. One player lacking can really bring a team down defensively. So I mean, especially now, we see the past couple of years. I think to compete for the NBA championship now and win a finals, you have to be a complete team. The Celtics, when they won, perfect team. Thunder last year, best defensive, I mean, damn near best offensive team in the league as well. But you can't have any glaring holes in your team and be a legit contender.
Yeah, for sure. I'm checking just to make sure, but I believe the on when he's playing and when he's not playing, because I think, yeah, the you said that the defensive rating was lower when he was on the floor.
Yeah, the games he's played.
So that actually that means that the defense was better because defensive rating is
Okay.
basically points scored. So if you have a lower defensive rating, your defense is better. So the 124 when he was off, I guess it
It could
also
also
like who
be,
knows if Luca was not playing along with
yeah.
Marcus Smart, let's just say, who is
Yeah,
a known good defender. So the numbers are tough to decipher from that. Um, so yeah, that was I like the going in, and I think it's cool that we also I chose the team that sucks the most, which I guess is a pretty easy thing to do, kind of cherry picking, but it is cool that we got into a few teams that are actually playoff bound potentially. I know the Clippers might not be, but like I said, they will be in the play-in because the 11 through 15 in the West are not even close.
Mhm.
So the top 10 is pretty much set from now, which is kind of crazy to say.
yeah.
Um, but we can move into the exciting teams now. We'll get into more positive stuff. Matt, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so as a Suns fan, I did pick the
Nice.
Suns.
Figured.
This is a team that,
What happened last night?
yeah, I mean,
Pat Spencer, baby.
uh, they're going to lose games. Only Dillon Brooks out there right now.
That's true.
But this is a team that already cashed their preseason over
Nice.
of 30.5 at 31 and 21. No one expected this from the Suns. They've done this with missing Devin Booker for 10 plus games. Jalen Green's only played in like 6 games.
That is crazy.
He's been hurt all
Yeah.
year.
They got back Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks, and Dillon Brooks has been what Jalen Green is supposed to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's insane.
He's developed offensively a ton.
Yeah,
yeah. And then just they picked up good pieces all around the roster that just everyone's playing hard, new coach from the Cavs.
yep,
It just you got rid of all the ego, I guess you could say. Like there's no more Bradley Beal, no more Kevin Durant. These are guys who are playing out there trying to earn their minutes. You have guys like Colin Gillespie having a great year, Grayson Allen shooting the ball amazing, and they're always playing hard on defense. Dillon Brooks will bring that type of mentality on the team, but just as a whole, they're playing great defense.
yeah,
The offense has been good enough, missing their best offensive weapons for many
yeah,
games.
yep,
It's just super surprising. I don't think anyone expected them to be anywhere even close to competing for a playoff, and they're the top team in the play-in. They're 1 game back of the 6th seed.
yeah. They've been great, and I think obviously bringing in Dillon Brooks kind of changes the culture there. They obviously play with the identity of what of how Dillon Brooks plays, because they are very tenacious on defense. I actually am interested now that you mentioned Jordan Ott. Do we know what his like coach of the year or odds would be? Because that would probably be a pretty good bet. But I
He's
was thinking, yeah, do you have it?
I'm pulling it up right now. I know he's second because I have
Yeah.
him at plus money.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a great bet. But I was also thinking he came from the Cavs. I also know that being that I went to a school in the MAC conference, they I own a basketball team, took a coach from the Cavs coaching staff. I wonder, I would have to do research into this after the episode. Is the depletion of Kenny Atkinson's staff with the Cavaliers, does that kind of affect why the Cavs haven't been as good this year? I don't know if that's truly the part of it, but it is interesting to think about. I mean, Ott has been incredible, and obviously he's a very good coach. So losing that as a part of your coaching staff, if you're Atkinson, may be an issue. Um, but yeah,
Yes,
the Suns have been great.
for coach of the year, JB Bickerstaff is minus 120, and
Okay, with the
then
Pistons.
Jordan Ott is at plus 370.
The Pistons were kind of, in my opinion, expected to be pretty good. Maybe not one seed good, so I guess I understand that. But yeah, Ott kind of came out of nowhere because you again don't really know what he's going to be. It's his first time being a head coach, and Bickerstaff we've seen have success before. But that's yeah, the Suns have been very good.
I was worried too with the Suns with their Bradley Beal tenure, even
Mm,
KD the last couple of years. I was worried the Suns were going to go down into basketball hell, go down the Pelicans route where they're winning 12 games a year. They've had a shockingly good turnaround.
yeah,
I mean, a year or two ago, it was like, yeah, the Suns are just a complete poverty franchise. They just can't win games. They, for some reason, a couple of years ago, paid Bradley Beal another $30 million a year. Like, yeah, they've had a shockingly good turnaround.
yeah, for sure. Do you want to give your team or should I give mine?
Well, I can go, right?
Sure,
My
go ahead.
team I'm gonna go with is the Celtics.
Nice.
Now, Tatum's obviously out for the year, right?
Well,
I don't. Yeah, they've been heavy on his early comeback for so long. I don't think they're actually going to rush anything. Um, but I don't think anyone expected the Celtics to do anything this year, and they had a slow start. But now they've bounced back. They're third in the East, right?
yep,
I'm pretty sure they're
yep,
third. And Jalen Brown is averaging 30 a game, pretty efficient numbers. I think he was third in MVP voting at least a couple weeks ago. So they're fun, and it makes me wonder too. And listen, they won the finals 2 years ago. Brown was finals MVP, right? So Brown and Tatum obviously can play together and both be elite. But
hmm
I wonder if Brown coming off a year like this, and I hope not, right, for the sake of the Celtics and their organization, I wonder if Brown gets selfish and wants to go somewhere without Tatum, wants to do it himself. The Celtics obviously still have a great roster without Tatum,
yeah.
but I wonder what happens if Tatum comes
Hmm.
back after Brown is. I mean, Brown's proving that he can be the guy. He's putting up
Yeah,
30 points a game and they're third in the East.
yeah,
Like he's putting them on their back. Without Brown, the Celtics are probably a bottom seven team in the East. So he's really putting them on their back, and I wonder what's going to happen when Tatum comes back. It's rare you see two guys, especially two guards, who've proven that they can both average 30 points a game, stay together
yeah,
for more than a couple of years, right?
yeah,
I mean, you see it with a big man and a guard, or somebody who at least plays like a big man and a point guard. But when you've got two small forwards who are effectively just big guards,
yeah.
they kind of have that all around elite, can kind of play and guard any position, and they both prove they can average 30 a game. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And if
Yeah.
Tatum comes back before the end of this year, I think that's just tough to do. He's sat out all year, and he's going to come back for the playoffs and try to step in and hope that it meshes perfectly. So I like what they're doing without Tatum right now, but I'm curious to see what will happen if Tatum comes back this year or even next year and how they perform. So
What about the Vucevic acquisition? Obviously,
yeah, forgot about Vooch. That's
yeah.
big.
And
That's
Kata
really
Kata
big.
has been playing well, but I think
Yeah.
he's better suited off the bench as opposed to a starting five. So yeah, even adding Vucevic, I think increases their ceiling.
Yep,
And
it's
that's really
phenomenal.
what
They
you
got
want
rid
to
of
do.
Simon. Yeah, no, it's phenomenal getting Vooch, and they got rid of Simons too,
Yep.
which was like a big deal when they got him, and then he didn't do anything for them. So I'm glad that they dished him out. I didn't think they really needed him
Yeah.
in the first place, given his play style. So yeah, Vooch was a good pickup.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Wasn't Jalen Brown shopped a little in the offseason too? Weren't there talks that maybe he could
I don't
go?
recall.
I'm not sure if that was ever substantial. I think that was more just gossip than anything. Like
Sure.
everyone has tried to tear them apart historically, Brown and Tatum. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that
that's
was kind of
true.
just another part of it. I do think that I could see a future for sure where Jalen goes to his own team, but I think giving it maybe 3 or 4 more years where you try to get that second championship at least, because there's no reason, like it's the analogy of the grass isn't always greener. And in this case, I think it's the most green, perfect grass that you can have in Boston. So for you to leave that just because obviously you want more legacy, or a better legacy. Nothing really beats that than winning another championship. And it's not like you really have anything else to prove at this moment. Like Tatum has been out, yes. So you have been able to show like, hey, I don't need Tatum to do this. I don't even really think that he thinks that way. I think they mesh well together and they play well together. But I think there's no reason to prematurely leave Boston when the situation that you have is great. I think there can definitely be a time where it becomes obvious that, hey, maybe this is best to go our separate ways. But the way that they're playing right now, and given the next few years in the future, I think keeping everything that you have, especially because they're able to build a pretty solid team around the two guys that they're paying the most money. Not every team can say that. They
Yeah.
give out a ton of money to players, and then they're not able to they're handcuffed in a way to how they can build out the rest of the team. The Celtics have done a phenomenal job, whether that be through the draft with Pritchard or Shireman and now Hugo Gonzalez. They've got role players who fit in well, and Keita, who I don't know if I think they just picked him up. They've obviously done a great job in that regard. So no reason for me, I think, if you're Jalen Brown to leave this soon, but eventually there might be a time where that comes.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense at all for him to leave. It'd be selfish, right? I mean, you won a ring 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So hopefully he stays, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So my team, I picked them before the buzz, let's just say. They were 21 and 28. At that point, they were on a 5 game win streak, so it was starting to get a little bit loud. Now it's at the point where they've won 8 in a row, I believe. Yeah, 8 game winning streak as of February 6th. They are now 24 and 28, and I say buzz because it is the Charlotte Hornets. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan, not only of the success that they've had, but they just play a fun brand of basketball, and a lot of that has to do with LaMelo because he's so unorthodox. But even with the unorthodox way that he plays, obviously I'd love to see him turn the ball over a little bit less and maybe take smarter shots. But some of the shots that he takes, they don't look good and they just go in because he's supremely talented. He has a top 10 offensive rating as a player. Um, and I think, well, I know that they began the year with an over under of 27.5 wins, and they're already at 24. So obviously low expectations. They're going to pass that mark pretty much with ease. And they even have 29 expected wins to this point compared to the 24 wins that they actually have, which I would assume probably means that they lost a few close games that they shouldn't have lost. That is, I think, just part of being a young team. You're going to not be able to close out some of the games that you're supposed to. But they have the 13th best net rating in the NBA, which is obviously the top half of the NBA. And they're competing against Chicago more or less, not really Chicago anymore because they traded their best player to their direct competition. And then I guess Milwaukee, who I thought wasn't going to be competing for a plan, but now that they're keeping Giannis says that he wants to compete to get into the playoffs. So I guess Milwaukee is their really only real competition to make the play-in. I got them at plus 125 to make the play-in. I wish I put my house on it because they traded for Kobe White, who, as I mentioned, they're in direct competition with the Bulls. The Bulls are obviously going to go down while the Hornets continue to trend up. Um, But yeah, the Hornets have been incredible. I have a few more stats that I'll share in a moment, but just want to hear your guys' thoughts on how the Hornets have played so far.
Yeah, definitely a young team. Feels like they go as LaMelo kind of goes.
Yep.
He's had some games coming off the bench and stuff where it wasn't too great, but he's a super talented player if he stays focused. They're capable of doing anything really, so not the super highest expectations, definitely fighting for that playing spot. I think I
Yeah.
could see him doing it.
I just like watching them play because of their play style. I think they're a fun team to watch. Adding Kobe White only increases their floor, or improves their floor, I should say, because Kobe's obviously a good basketball player. He's proven that he can play, is a great guard. I think they'll probably take him off the bench, and I say that because they are 14 and 1, which is pretty insane with the starting five of LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Con Knipple, Miles Bridges, and Moussa Diabate. 14 and 1 for your regular starting five is, in my opinion, insane. They're 9 and 1 in their last 10, and they're, like I said, on an 8 game winning streak. So you have all that. Obviously, Diabate, I think, should be spotlighted a little bit more. He always brings high effort. He averages around a block per game, which is what you'd at least want for your center. But he also is top five in offensive rebounds per game. He has 3.5 offensive rebounds per game, which is, I think, fifth in the NBA. And then obviously they have Brandon Miller, who can kind of score at will whenever he's healthy. Con Knipple is an elite shooter. I think he's already proven that. But also can get to pretty much any spot on the floor, regardless of whether it's on the perimeter or near the basket, by just being so fundamentally sound. He's a great rookie to watch, and plays just so cleanly. And then obviously Miles Bridges is, he contributes through all facets. I think he's willing to kind of take a step back in the role that he has, and be a little bit more efficient with less volume, which is important. And then obviously they brought in Kobe White, who's going to be kind of a pseudo six man, definitely could start, but when your starting five right now is 14 and 1, there's no reason to change that. So bring him off the bench, and I think they obviously have a bright future.
I was not familiar that the Hornets were playing that well. I
Yeah.
knew that they were heating up recently, but 14 and 1 with their starting five is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest LaMelo fan. He's fun. I just think,
Yeah.
and granted, I don't watch that many Hornets games, right? But I just wasn't confident that he could get it done himself. But obviously they have a good team around him. So
Yeah. I think his biggest thing, or really the team's biggest thing, because Brandon Miller kind of falls victim to this as well, just take good shots. Like, we don't have
yeah,
to be chucking up shots that are heavily contested. I understand that you can make them, but yeah, I mean, they're continuing to rise. So we'll see how the season ends. I think they're going to make the play-in. Their only competition at this point is Milwaukee. The rest of the Eastern Conference is kind of far removed from being able to compete for the play-in. So we'll see. They're, I think, 2.5 games ahead of Milwaukee, and Giannis, I guess, is capable of kind of closing that gap pretty easily. But the Bucks team around Giannis, I don't think is that great, despite him saying that he wants to compete for or whatever. I don't even know what he said. It was very confusing, and that whole situation is a little ridiculous. I don't really care to give it the time of day, because the Bucks were kind of just playing with their food, so to speak. But you know, I think the Hornets are more interesting and more exciting, especially than the Bucks and pretty much the majority of teams that maybe are sleeper teams, so to speak, throughout the Eastern Conference.
agreed.
Sweet. All right. So the last thing that we have as part of our curriculum, let's just say, for this episode, is our most impressive players. So we each pick three players. I think we'll go one at a time, not all three listed at once, but we go one, 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 and then we go to our second, and then our third. My first guy is Anthony Black, who is 22 years old. He's definitely improved his game as overall. I think when he first came in the league, he was always a positive defender, and he still continues to be, which is important. And he was limited to a shooting role around Franz and Paolo. Um, Initially, when he got increased volume in year two, kind of struggled with it, especially from three, which is not good given that he was kind of limited to being able to shoot from the perimeter and kind of getting catch and shoot shots from whenever Paolo goes to the basket or Franz goes to the basket. But he's since expanded his game so that he can play off the dribble. His 3-point shot has continued to climb, and he went from basically being a 3 and D guy to a formidable starting guard in any playoff caliber team who can contribute through all facets, both on the offensive side and the defensive side. So he was kind of one dimensional and has now become a complete all around player. He had that 26-point game against Miami late January, which was, I think, a little bit of a coming out party for him. And Shamgod, who is one of the coaches for Orlando now, he just joined the staff. I think he has a lot of influence on how Anthony Black has improved because his ball handling is years improved within just a short time compared to how he started in the league. But Shamgod has had influence on guys like Kyrie, and he's just been a great player development coach. He did it in Dallas. Now he's in Orlando, and I think Anthony Black has been the biggest. Uh, he's been able to have the most success because of Shamgod coming in.
Sure. Not super familiar with Anthony Black myself. I've only seen a couple of things about him throughout the season.
Yep.
So, yeah, keep an eye on him.
Yeah, fun player. And Orlando kind of has a limited ceiling, I think, despite bringing in Desmond Bain. Hopefully, if Anthony Black continues to play well, that ceiling rises a little bit.
Yeah, I like Paolo. So hopefully
Yep.
they can turn it around for the next couple of years.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yep.
Who's the next player?
You want me
Mine,
to?
so two of my guys I kind of already talked about, and Keontae George and Jalen Brown. So I'll just go with the other guy I had, which is Ajay Mitchell of the
Sure.
Thunder. Of course, I had to go with the Thunder guy.
Yep.
But AJ Mitchell, second year in the league, I think he was a big piece that the Thunder, tough to say they needed anything after winning the championship last year
Hmm.
relatively easily, but he's a good bucket off the bench. He can get you a bucket if Shea's not in or J-Dub's not in or if they're getting guarded by an elite defender. AJ Mitchell can come in and give you a bucket. He's also on NBA.com, their advanced stats are somewhat contradictory and hard to interpret,
Mm,
but on NBA.com for the advanced stats, he's fifth in defensive rating and fifth in net rating.
sure.
So, shocker, another elite defender on OKC.
Yeah.
And so, elite defender as a guard and can come in. He's averaging 14 points a game this year. Come in and give you a bucket when you need him. I just like watching him play. He's kind of small. He's kind of scrappy. He's a lefty.
Yep.
So he's fun to watch, but also another elite defender. So
Yeah.
those are the three guys I had.
I wonder what his per 36 would look like because obviously he doesn't start given that he's behind Shea and Lou. Um,
Yeah.
and even kind of limited with Kaysen as well. I think they like to play Kaysen because of
Yeah.
his defensive abilities. But
Yep.
yeah, AJ, it'll be interesting to see. I think he honestly is a little bit like a Shea because he shows that he's obviously capable of doing all these things, but he's limited with the role that he has right now. I
Yeah.
wonder if he was, I don't think that Sam Presti's going to let him go, obviously, but if there comes a point where his hand's kind of forced and he either has to extend Mitchell and doesn't have the money to do so without going over the first or second apron, I wonder if AJ Mitchell was to go to a different team, like what he would look like and if he could turn into a star, because he's a star within his role right now. But I think
Yeah.
the potential there is super high. So
Yep.
I really like AJ Mitchell, and that was a great shout.
Yeah. Thanks.
So for my first player, I picked Denny Avdija.
I picked him too.
Just career high in points per game. He's
Yep.
averaging almost 8 points more than his previous high. Almost four assists higher, 3 assists higher.
Yep.
His previous high. Just a guy who's truly developed great, really showing it this year.
Yes.
Portland's not the best, but they are in the play-in right now.
Yep. And I think they should make the play-in again because Dallas, Memphis, Utah, Sacramento, and New Orleans are the 11 through 15. Obviously, the top 10 make it. I don't see any of those five teams giving Portland or any other team that's in the play-in right now a run for their money, as it appears as though they're all trying to kind of tank for a good pick.
Mm.
So I'd expect them to make to the play-in. You mentioned their playmaking for sure. I think the most interesting part, he went from 17 points per game on 12 field goal attempts last year to 25 points per game on 17 field goal attempts this year. But more importantly, 5.2 free throw attempts last year to 9.5 this year. And he's said himself that he doesn't shy away from contact and is self-proclaimed the most physical player in the league. That has been the biggest step with his game is being able to get to the line so many times and so consistently. I love the Evdia pick. Obviously, this is from a purely basketball standpoint because there are other things out there that people have talked about from Avdia, but from a basketball perspective, I love how Denny has been playing. Unfortunately, he has had a back issue the past few games, which has kind of caused his numbers to dip a little bit. But he also said because of those back issues that it's tough to balance making sure that he's healthy, but also wanting to be out there and playing for the team, which a lot of NBA players will just be like, hey, I don't feel 100%. I'm going to sit out. But in his case, he's trying to be out there every game, especially for being their best player. I think that's super commendable and something that you want out of whoever it is that you're trying to build a team around.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any other numbers on that?
No, that's kind of all I brought was the career high numbers that
Okay.
really stood out to me.
Yeah. Top 35 player efficiency rating, PER. Top 15 of players with 30 plus point games with 12, and he's top 30 in win shares within the NBA. So I think with all that being said, a big game from him is very possible in the play-in, allowing them to get a playoff series in Portland, which is something that hasn't happened since 2020, 2021 when Dame and CJ were there. And I think Portland kind of is hoping for that. And it's good to see Portland basketball in the playoffs because of all the prominence that Oregon basketball specifically with Nike and the runs that they've had up there. Um, all of that is super important. So I'd love to see Portland get into the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to make it out of the play-in because I don't think that they're the strongest team within that a group of four. But with Avdia being able to kind of explode and go off any game, along with Shaden Sharp, I think it's possible. And it's just exciting to continue to see where Portland goes, especially when they get Dame back next year. Should be fun.
Definitely.
Um, do you want to go into your second player?
Yeah, I can. My
Sure.
second player was Dillon Brooks.
Okay, that makes
Just,
sense.
on a surprise team,
Yep.
been the one consistently out there. He's been healthy. Career high in points per game by almost 3 points. Um, his rebounds per game are right in line with his career high. And then he is having his best free throw percentage and field goal percentage
Yep.
of his career. So it's just someone, known for his defense, got shipped out of Houston in the Kevin Durant trade. As a Suns fan, you don't really look at Dillon Brooks and expect him to be the key piece of that trade, but being the healthy guy and just always being there, he's been playing great, almost an all-star,
Yep.
won Western Conference Player of the Week, I
Yep.
think, and just he's been carrying that team. He's a guy who's going to play hard. Definitely the identity they have feels like it matches up a lot with who he is as a player, and it's gotten them to the top seed in the play-in right now.
100%.
Yeah, I love what Brooks has been doing. His jump offensively has been fun. I've been seeing edits on TikTok of just his offensive bag development, and he's
Hmm.
become somewhat of a legit ISO scorer. And obviously,
Yeah.
he's just known for his defense. So yeah, he's fun.
Yep. His little the way that he scores, like every time a shot goes up, he does that little hop away thing, which is
Yep,
to me frustrating because he's
yep,
just so annoying. But got to give him flowers because he is a good player.
yeah.
I'll do my last player, but this is more. Shout out to all the older stars in the league because
Sure.
for many, many years, I think probably going on 5 or 6, definitely 5. The conversation has been pretty much since Tatum and Ant entered the league, who's going to be the next face of the league. And since that time, I think all of the older superstars who were part of the previous generation have continued carrying the torch. Specifically, Kevin Durant, who I base this off of. At 37, he's top 10 in total points, top 15 in points per game, top 5 in win shares, and he's doing it at 40, 50, 41, 88 shooting splits. So he's doing
Wow.
it efficiently. That's kind of what he's always been. He always has been efficient. But to be able to shoot 50, 41, 88 is incredible at 37 years old. There's only 2 players over the age of 29 that are in the top 20 of minutes per game. Kevin Durant at 37 is third with nearly 37 minutes per game, and James Harden at 36 is 10th with 35.5 minutes per game. And again, those are the only two over the age of 29. So it's not as if they're close to around 29. They are years removed from being close to 29, early 30s. They're in their late 30s now and they're still producing at a high level. LeBron obviously is 41 years old. I've grown to appreciate him despite his Cleveland days when he was playing against the Warriors. 22, 7 and 7 at 41 is insane. And he's obviously on the Lakers team that, despite being a little bit disappointing, is top 5, I believe, in the West. And James Harden is fourth in assists per game, 11th in usage, 15th in points per game. And Kawhi is top 10 in player efficiency rating, points per game, usage percentage. And then lastly, my GOAT, Steph Curry, is seventh in usage percentage, 10th in points per game, 12th in PER. So Kawhi, Harden, Curry, all top 25 in Darko, and they're all doing it with a heavy burden comparatively to the rest of the team. They're continuing to be high usage players the way that they have always been, despite being much older than everyone else now. And I think it's incredibly impressive for them at the age that they're at, just to continue to be able to play at the level they're playing. And like I said, this has been a conversation for so long. Who's going to be the next face of the league? There hasn't had to have been because these guys are continuing to play at the highest level. And it's super cool for me to be able to appreciate their games even more because obviously when we're teenagers, like we understand it a little bit. But even for the people that are teenage or the kids that are teenagers now, they get to kind of appreciate what it is that these players are doing. And they at least have seen them play because at some point there's going to be a point in time where there's going to be a generation where they haven't seen these players play, but for them to be able to do this for so long is really a gift for basketball. And it's been awesome to watch them all play.
Yeah, that's a good shout out. Yeah, I think LeBron aging as well as he has sort of shadowed those other
Yep.
guys and has sort of blocked the Katie doing that at 37, putting up those numbers is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, prior to LeBron, guys weren't doing that, being 37, 38 years old, putting up numbers like that.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a great shout.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like that pick. I think just as a whole, all the older players that feels like my whole basketball watching career, they've been there since pretty much day one,
Yep.
as far as I can remember, and just to still be some of the best players in the league here in our
It's
early
crazy.
20s. It's
Yeah, it's
wild.
Yeah,
absurd.
especially given the amount of talent that there is with the younger players and they're keeping up with all of these guys for as long as they're able to do it. People have not necessarily been writing them off, but they've been trying to kind of force them out and they just refuse to be forced out because of
Yeah,
the
it's
talent
true.
and the work ethic that they have. So definitely wanted to get them in there and then we can move to your final player there, Matthew.
Yeah, my third player was similar to DJ hitting on it earlier, was just Jalen Brown.
Sure.
So, just him carrying that team without Tatum really impressed me, showing he could be the guy alone.
Did you have any other Tatum numbers that you had, DJ?
No, nope.
Well, I think it is impressive that we all kind of were on the same page with some of our Uh, different shout outs that we had for most impressive players. I think exciting teams was fun. Definitely always good to talk about basketball. And I think it was good to talk about it now at this stage, given that, the trade deadline just happened. As I mentioned, we're recording this on Friday, February 6th. Deadline was yesterday, so obviously things are going to change a little bit, and our opinions always have a chance of changing. Maybe James Harden works well with the Cavs. We'll see. But I think being able to talk about this stuff now and at least giving us a day to absorb everything that has happened with the deadline and all the players. Obviously, the All-Star game is coming up. Do we have any other general NBA stuff that we'd like to get to before we get out of here?
That was pretty much all I wanted to touch on. Yeah.
Nice. Sweet. I love it. I think this was a fun episode. I enjoyed, obviously, talking about basketball. We are going to continue to do so now that football's over, soon to be anyway. But I think by the time this comes out, it will be over. So congratulations to the Patriots, or congratulations to the Seahawks.
Sure.
I'm going to say probably was the Seahawks. And congratulations to me for hitting on every single bet that I put in. We'll see what happens, but excited for the Super Bowl, I guess. But really more so excited for the rest of this NBA season, both regular and post. And excited to continue to watch the players that we had all mentioned, see how all the trades kind of work out for each team. And with all that being said, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys soon.